Tristan Simonte here for all four of you. So not all, but many of your platforms, like a lot of you highlighted what you will do to change the club, but I'd like to hear what you've already done to change the club. Like, for example, Ian's various workshops or Austin's newly implemented hangout sessions. What have you done as a board member to push the club forward for the better? Anyone could start, I guess.
Okay, I'll jump in. So actually through Tristan, I connected with Pies from UCLA, and we were able to. Pies is Filipinos in engineering science students. And they're pretty much similar to Fusion over at UCLA. And I was able to create a Kamayan where we have pretty much like a picnic, and Kamay means eat with your hands. I think I was able to impact my community, especially the Filipino community, and being able to unite a Filipino engineering across a UC system. I think that's one of my biggest feats as EVP.
Yes, I'll go next. Like I feel like this is not really for me what I feel like I've accomplished. I just feel like having been like sort of a person that sort of like is in charge of the program. I'm just like very proud of such a like the interns and what they've done. I feel like they've done an amazing job, like sort of like pushing the limits of like what of like their voice, bringing like their loudness and contributing so much to the club. I absolutely love everything they've done. So I don't feel like taking like really any credit for it, but I feel like the thing I'm most proud of from like this year is honestly like seeing how much the interns have grown and seeing how much we've done for the club. So I'm really proud of that personally.
Okay, I guess I can go. Tristan, you said, what have you done as a board member to push Fusion forward?
Yes.
As a TLDR. Okay.
What have you already done?
So I guess I kind of covered this in my speech a bit, but I will, I guess, elaborate more on it. As treasurer, I was able to allocate some budget to being a FAM head. If, I guess you don't really know, being a FAM head requires money if you want to make programs that need supplies and such. And by budgeting and doing more fundraisers and adequately documenting each of those fundraisers and providing statistics on each, I was able to have that budget become successful for FAM heads. In addition, I was able to provide driver reimbursements as well, which I believe it might not be a new thing, but I was able to compensate drivers as a way to say thank you to them.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Well, so when I did publicity last year, I wasn't that involved in expanding any of the capabilities of the club, as it were. I was more focused on making sure that our visual content were consistent. So I can't really speak on moving the club forward in a more whole direction that benefits members directly. But I did benefit the club by being able to present itself through the banners, through the website that I'm still trying to help with, and just consistency with how we present ourselves visually. That was my role last year.
Thanks, guys.
I love your banners, Richard.
Thank you. Intern, you worked on one of them.
I know.
I have a question. So throughout the year, you know, being a board member and an engineering major can be difficult. How would you work to reestablish board morale throughout the year if you feel like people are becoming lazy or unmotivated? Yeah.
Board hangouts.
Yes, most definitely.
That's pretty much the key. Being open, being free, just to do whatever if your board wants to.
Yeah. I guess like sort of allocating more like board time together, or just like in addition to just like the hangouts or just like this general like sort of like random pop-ups where we all just sort of see each other. I feel like anytime that ever happens, whenever we come together as a board, it always feels like an enriching experience. I feel always like motivated by what other people have been doing. And then it feels like, okay, these people have been stepping up. Now I feel like I need to do more work. So like just seeing everybody work, like come together and like when we all have fun together, we all work hard together. I feel like we just bounce off each other really well. So I feel like that's a big part of morale. So encouraging more of those hangouts, like Richard said.
I agree with both of those. I would have a hangout with board members and I guess talk to them and see how they're doing on morale. How could I help them as the president? And how could we all help each other?
I think besides board hangouts, I would do that as well. I would kind of give like a personal pep talk to my whole board, either individually or, you know, even it could be through Zoom potentially in the future if we have to. But just kind of giving them word of wisdom or word of motivation. I think that's going to be the strongest morale boost.
Be like Jeff from Community.
Can I ask a question now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I have two questions. One of them is 4 parts. So
It's a lot more
try
questions.
to keep sorry, I have a question. So one of the one that's 4 parts, I'm going to say that right now. Try to be as concise as possible just because there's a lot of you. So the first one is, what is the biggest problem that you faced while your board year? So it could be personal, social, professional, whatever that may be. 2, how did you handle that? 3, what did you learn from it? And then 4, how would you implement that to your president year? And if you need me to reiterate, I can, but go ahead and think about that.
So I'm actually going to jump in on this. So under Dom, while I was an intern, I actually learned that if I were to become EVP, you should take some time for yourself. So the issue I came up with was that I didn't make enough time for myself. So I was prioritizing Fusion or schoolwork, and I didn't really understand that I needed to kind of take a step back. So one issue was P Council. I was having like issues making them. I had to prioritize either myself or going through FASI or some sort of just outside meetings outside of Fusion. I kind of allowed myself to take some time and give the work towards others, and I had to be really appreciative and kind of communicate towards my board that I needed this time and I need to take a step back. And probably, okay, so if I were president, again, it would be a time commitment, but I think this, you know, really managing time and really portioning who's going to do what in terms of presidential duties and kind of understanding what each board member is going to do, that's where my specialty would be in.
I guess I can go next. So one of the biggest problems I faced during my board term personally is that I'd overextend and overtake. If I were to put this in an analogy, it'd be like the giving tree. I just volunteer myself for other things and ask people if they need help. And in turn, that caused so much work and me to be so hard on myself that I wasn't able to handle it. That became a big problem, I guess, on my mental health as well. One way I handled it was just talking out my problems to others and getting input from them and trying to, I guess, lessen the amount I was taking in and trying to do what I could do so far. And I learned that I can only take in so much, and even though it'll be helping people, you should try to do what's best for you at the most. And the way to implement that in board, Dom, what do you mean by implement it? Like implement how I learned from it?
Yeah, so like how would you take that into your board year or to your president year? How would you how did it change you basically?
I guess it changed me in a way that I should know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I guess to not overextend too much that I'm unable to handle it. If a board member was lacking per se, I wouldn't necessarily take up whatever, but I would talk to them and try to come to, I guess, an agreement of sorts on how it can be fixed and such. Not just do it myself and per se.
Okay, I'll go. So during the board year, 18-19, there were a lot of challenges over fall and winter quarter with several board members leaving. And that took a toll on me eventually in winter when I was very busy with school, my busiest quarter ever, and I was doing board. And, you know, a lot of the thoughts that came into my head was on that same vein was, why am I doing this? And like, why am I still here? And those questions are really hard because in the same topic of board morale, when you have a board member that doesn't feel like their work is worth it anymore, then it starts breaking down. But the best takeaway I took from that was it's two parts. First of all, the way that President handled that throughout that year, throughout that quarter, was pretty exemplary. Even though a lot of us were tired, we were, 4 board members left. We were all struggling. She was struggling. It was really tough. But keeping transparent and still being supportive in those times, that's definitely one thing that a president needs to be. And I'm glad to have experienced that firsthand, because even if I was done with it, even if I felt like, this board there's things here that shouldn't be happening, going to board meetings still became enjoyable. Those board hangouts that we started, or that we kept doing rather, they became more fun because I went in there thinking that I'm just here to do work. I'll give them the banners, I'll give them whatever visual content they need, and then I'll leave. That's the other part. That's what I learned, that you have to be adaptable yourself as a board member. Even if you come in there with an intention, that doesn't mean it's going to work throughout the whole year. So you need to learn how you react under stress from multiple sources, and balance out how do you make certain stresses productive so that it's not just eating you up. So Fusion became more fun for me, and I actually learned to take breaks from engineering, from my engineering classes, rather than just being a workaholic like freshman year where I would just do everything all at once and just sleep it off.
Yes. So me, perhaps, I think the biggest issue I face is always been a case, or in some manner of communication, of just sort of being more aware of what's happening, or just knowing everything that's going on. Because even though I always am always willing to listen and be in that part to just hear what people have to say, a big thing is sort of putting myself into a position where they would like to talk to me, or they would like me to listen. Finding the manner in which I to let them know that I want to hear them has been sort of an issue, or just helping that be a thing. I feel the way Sammy has been this year in terms of the way he's always talked to everyone, the way he's making the communication spot on by having these individual meetings with everyone, and then ensuring that whatever issues they maybe have is always you can always trust Sammy to go to him for that. I feel being able to sort of recreate that is because again, I feel that was amazing the way Sammy handled that, and I would love to sort of do what I've learned from his communication and bring that to my following board, is letting them know, besides of course, yeah, I'm always here to listen to you, but being more aware, making the time for them individually to hey, is there anything to talk about, or just sort of being more active in their health, of course, making sure that you're all getting along, and having more active style in terms of the people I talk with, or just getting to know one another, instead of the more passive roles which I usually take, and just sort of being unaware of sort of what else is happening around me. I feel like this year has been a great learning experience for that, and I've seen like so many great people handle this type of thing. So I feel like going to the next year will be a lot more different, considering what I've seen from like the example or like leaders around me. So yeah, just sort of being more aware of like who to talk to and what to say, and how to make sure that I'm always going to be there as a voice too.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Sid, and then Ayana.
Okay. Hi, it's Sid again. So my question for all of y'all would be, critique the current position holder.
Y'all, I knew this was coming. I'm
I
excited.
see.
I mean, I feel like Sammy's just been like an amazing job, like as a president. Like he's kept our board close. He's been like a guiding light. He's always like ready to talk about issues. He sets his deadlines, but is always so active in like making sure we're healthy and our schedule isn't killing us. He gives us so much like leeway, but also ensures that we succeed in all our positions. Like almost like an ask for a better person.
Okay. Did you want to go?
No, you can go.
Okay, so I do agree that Sammy's board is exemplary for next year as well. I've seen a lot of things that have been improved in terms of board relations as well. But in terms of executing Fusion services, one of the points where I would criticize him for is the general meetings. I know that there are a lot of programs that we have every week. Like this is touching upon the idea of balancing between keeping your old members that have been here before and attracting new members. We know that board meetings, general meetings can be treated as not just our only, our only program, right? You can treat it as a small percentage of everything that we do. However, new people first go to general meetings. That's your weekly thing that you can go to. It's, it's not as dedicated as Fusion Fit where you work out. It's not dedicated like FTech. It's a wide variety. So even though time-wise, it might consist not as much as the other programs combined, content-wise, there's a lot that you deliver within that 1 or 2 hours, including after events. So I think there still needs to be a focus on making sure that those meetings are varied from previous years to still keep attracting the people who have joined previously while maintaining that fun part where everyone can enjoy it. And, some meetings are more productive professionally or academically than others. We also need to keep that in mind.
Dang, Richard stole my thunder.
Oh no.
But it's okay. That was like one of the main things I was going to address. But if I were to give a critique, it's more of, I guess, a personal one because board gen members wouldn't know this, but I guess too long board meetings sometimes. That's subjective, but yeah, they're a bit long. Maybe, I guess, more streamlining it in a way that people know they should present what they need to say to people in order to communicate effectively what needs to be done. Yeah, shorter board meetings.
I think that Sammy could have had more one-on-ones with us as a board, especially in my experience. I think just having like those key experiences and short talks, even at Starbucks, it could be at, just really reuniting the reason why we become board, and being friends is a big part of why we choose to be board. Mm-hmm. But what Sammy did show off is his professionalism. He's able to show that, okay, say that we're going to be meeting at a park, we're still being very punctual about it, and showing off that we are friends and we're able to be ourselves in Fusion setting with other people. For example, my Kamayan, we were being very punctual, and Sammy was very helpful in my experience towards that event.
Okay, Ayana, you were going to ask another question?
Yes. So as president, you hear a lot of criticisms from not only your board members, but also general members. So my question to you is, how would you separate your personal feelings from the criticisms that come at you so that it, one, ensures that it doesn't affect future decisions for your board and for the club in general, and two, it doesn't hinder or affect your personal relationships or friendships with your board members and general members? Yes.
So how to balance personal feeling versus what should, I guess, happen?
Yeah, so with criticisms, like trying to establish that boundary between personal feelings and like making sure that it's all business kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I think that you gotta understand it from both perspectives, really, and then try to, disconnect them. You have to, like, okay, if I were to react this way, what will be the response? That's how you kind of differentiate if this is a feeling or if this is actually good for Fusion. That would define the differences between your feelings and how you should run your board.
I guess for me, I usually take a logic-based stance and try to present the facts only and try to leave out my just bias with feelings towards the issue at hand. So the way I go about dealing with criticism with just accept it face value and take it in as it is.
Yeah. I feel like already like in my position as an IVP, like it's very up to like receiving and hearing the criticism from the club, whether it's improving like one of our programs or seeing something happen. I'm very used to it personally in my position, and so like I've always felt like handling has never been ever like a personal issue. I feel like whatever people are telling me, it's for like it's for a good reason. It's for a veterinary club, and I feel like the people I've talked with have been very professional about it. I feel like it's always like some understanding that we are here to make an improvement in our lives, not to like hurt it. So, take everything with like, like a peace of mind. Like they're here not to hurt you. They're here to because they want something better to happen. And that's how I've always seen every single issue. People want like to hopefully see a better change. I just like I'm always down to hear that. I feel like it never gets in the way of being personal. It's always like attempted to keep it professional. Yeah, that's just like a personal feeling about it, I guess. And I guess to keep that going is just sort of like having this open mind, like an open circle where people aren't afraid to share their thoughts. Or like if you're shy, it's fine, but like never feel like you should be shy because we always want to hear you. So keeping that openness to hearing, I guess, is a big thing.
Okay. Anyone have any last minute question?
I have one.
Go ahead. Keep it short, concise.
Yeah. So how would you guys balance classes, board, and your goals for Fusion? Because your guys' goals seem pretty ambitious. And regarding like your classes, how would you manage that?
So typically for the last 3 years, I've been taking 16 units or more. And with that in mind, what that led me to do is free up my entire senior year to 12 units. That's one less class per quarter that I'm used to. So that's a lot of free time that I've already freed up. And even if I do have another commitment, an internship throughout the year, I've had that experience for last year of how to manage my classes in Fusion. And I mean, I don't see any issues with time management at this point. It's going to be my 4th year coming in, and I've dealt with this for 3 years. So just keeping my my experiences from years before of how I feel throughout the year.
Certainly for me, last year or last quarter in fall, I had like my basis every quarter. I had about 25 units. Yeah, but 25 units. I was also working as an intern in Fusion. I also had 2 other jobs at the time. And so doing all that, the 25 minutes job, internships, it was all hectic. But after that, basically, it's paved the way to me having a very relaxed and chill, like, next 3 quarters. Like, every quarter, I'm taking just like Richard 12 minutes as well. So my time is very open. Not only that, but because I've experienced with like to have such a heavy and like overfilling time schedule, I know how to balance it and making sure it works. And so I can handle both situations very well, where I already have the free time to put my focus in the right places, as well as able to handle when things get rough. So yeah.
I think for me, actually, well, okay. I also, tanked my first year, just taking an absurd amount of classes and units, sort of to free up the possibly presidential year or 3rd year, 4th year. But what was I saying? Yeah, I think that I would be able to time manage just by finding motivation. I really think that really realizing why you chose engineering or why you chose Fusion really would kind of combat that issue of finding how to do these problems, how to fix XYZ problems.
Okay, I believe throughout my time as treasurer, I gained the experience to time manage. Being that I was able to hold my position well, be successful in it, and have a part-time job, as well as socialize with my other friends around me as much. Yeah, time management.